crushed its skull and cut its limbs. And you could see this fetus's face literally contorting in horror as an adult human being would if they were subjected to the same kinds of pain. And that's why the movie was called a silent scream. You couldn't hear the scream. And the point of the book, The Window on the Womb, is that we don't see what's going on inside the womb in the midst of an abortion. But now we have the advanced, sophisticated technology by which we can actually film what is happening in abortions as they are taking place. And what astonishes me more than anything else is how somebody could watch the drama of what is taking place here, see it visually, not just theorize about it abstractly, but see it visually and not be persuaded that what we're dealing with here is a human being. Because the response is essentially the same as that would be of a 2-year-old child to this kind of pain. But you see, we're voting and deciding on ethical issues and civil matters that are beyond our vision. It's been said that the most dangerous place in the United States of America right now is a woman's womb. It's the place where most people die. But it's invisible. Women go through an emotional experience when they can feel their developing child. We call it quickening. But if you can't feel it, you can't hear it, and you can't see it, you don't think it's real. But with the instrumentation we have of perceiving what is actually there from conception, what is actually there from conception exhibits all of the necessary characteristics of human life. We know this much for sure, that at conception, the natural development of a living human being begins. I was on the train a few weeks ago, and I was discussing this matter with a man, and he said to me, what's the difference between an unfertilized egg and a male sperm that have never met and the fertilized egg? What's the difference? I said, the obvious difference is conception. That is a difference. Now the egg is fertilized, the genetic code is intact, and it's all the difference in the world, because you can have, as I say, 59 million sperms swimming as hard as they can, and an egg over here defending itself as hard as they can. You can have that forever and never have a human being. But once we have conception, the process begins that is moving and driving towards a human child. And so conception is a crucial point. Now, quickly, as my time is running out, I want to touch on the government or the legal view. In my judgment, the current law of the United States does not adequately answer the question at all of the origin of human life. For the most part, it is agnostic, and in some senses, even contradictory. Again, in my judgment, the weakest part of Roe versus Wade is found in the attempt of the court to make the legal point that is crucial the point of so-called viability. Now, viability means that time in the development of a child when, if that child is born prematurely or whatever, it has the ability to survive. It is livable. It is viable. And so the ruling of the court was that after viability, abortions are not permitted except under certain extenuating circumstances. Incidentally, the net effect has been that those circumstances are easily gotten around so that abortions are in fact legal now all the way into the third trimester and are being done into the third trimester. But the problem with viability, ladies and gentlemen, is that it tends to be arbitrary because it's a sliding point. It's not a fixed point in this continuum between conception and birth. In fact, since Roe versus Wade in 1973, the expected age of the viability of the embryo has been shortened by at least 2 weeks because of increased technology in incubation techniques. Now, on this particular point of viability, Sandra Day O'Connor, who, as you know, is a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, wrote a criticism of setting the point of decisive significance at viability, in which she said, quote, "In Roe, the court held that although the state had an important and legitimate interest in protecting potential life, that interest could not become compelling until the point at which the fetus was viable." You see the problem? This is why I said there's inherent contradiction here. That the court, in its judgment in Roe versus Wade, said that yes, the government, the state, does have a legitimate interest to protect the right of a potential human being, but that interest doesn't become compelling until viability. The difficulty with this analysis is clear, says Sandra Day O'Connor. Potential life is no less potential in the first week of pregnancy than it is at viability or afterwards. The choice of viability as the point at which the state interest in potential life becomes compelling is no less arbitrary than choosing any point before viability or any point afterwards. Accordingly, I believe that the state's interest in protecting potential human life exists throughout the entire pregnancy. See, once the court made the distinction between potential and actual human life, they are caught on the horns of a dilemma. If the state is responsible to protect potential human life, then, as Sandra Day O'Connor says, it is potential human life at the moment of conception. That it has potentiality moving to the direction, to the natural conclusion of birth. And to put the legal definition of life at the point of viability is an exercise in despair because of its implicit arbitrariness. The net effect of Roe versus Wade has been to offer little actual protection to a fetus before birth. Now, the next thing I want us to look at, ladies and gentlemen, is what is the state's responsibility to protect the unborn child? And how does the state's responsibility dovetail or relate to the church? What is the church's role in the abortion issue? What is the relationship of church and state? And we'll look at that in our next session.
For more information about Ligonier Ministries, call 1-800-435-4